But when I said the word masculinity, there was a prefix that you attached to it. Immediately, you use the word toxic. I want to ask you a question. How is masculinity toxic? The sex is very important. You should try it out before, because sexual compatibility is very important. Even in the context of marriage.
I keep it inside of me. Yeah, I keep it inside. It's killing the man in me. Yeah, it's killing the man. Keep it inside, I keep it inside of me. Yeah, I keep it.
Welcome to the Crisis of Manhood Podcast with me, your host, Peter Mukuka. Well, today we'll be looking at a topic that really resonates with me, and that is a man's journey through loss, rejection, and identity. And to be able to have that conversation today, I'm joined by none other than Joseph Simkoko. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. And it's very live. I love the place. Really great place. And thank you for the opportunity as well.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, Joe, I know you in many, through you and I, we've crossed paths in many spaces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What? This is 9 years, I guess.
Yeah. I believe so. I think at some point we were together at ECR.
Exactly. Expanded Church Response.
We were there for a short while.
Yes.
And then after that with Miracle Life as well.
Yeah, we go to church together.
Yeah.
Even in the business world, we do business together.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think what's inspiring about you is your I think most of the things that you do, like with ECI, it was around development, supporting communities, and all that, and even in your business, it's similar with Green Giraffe, and I know you'll be talking a little bit about that, but I think your passion for development, for change and growth, I think is really admirable. And maybe before we go forward, you can.
In fact, when you said that, I just remembered why that's so.
Yeah.
I guess any man must have his signature.
Yeah.
And that signature is his purpose. And it answers why. So if a man is in tune with his purpose, every time you meet him, he will be very consistent. Every time you meet him, he'll be consistent. Not today, I am a playboy. Tomorrow, I am a hero. I have to be consistent. So for me, purpose starts the conversation. And my purpose on this earth is to be heaven's solution to an earthly problem in every sphere of influence that I have. So I believe God has set me apart, set me on course, actually to be able to see change in people's lives. So I always say, if you encounter me and you have a challenge, we will not end that conversation without you having a solution. And that's everything that I do has to come back to that particular purpose. So even when you met me at ECR, I didn't stay long, but I left some form of impact. Like, there was this guy, he did this and he left. I just didn't come to get a salary. I'm like, no, I'll come give something. So everywhere I've worked, you can come and point and say, what did this guy do when he was here? The point and say, that's what he left. You go to the next place, that's what he left. And so it's become kind of my signature. Like, define Joseph, you'll find that purpose coming up. Yeah.
Nice. Let's take us a little bit back in terms of your qualification and also what led to you finding Green Giraffe.
Wow.
And of course, maybe you can share other works that you're into. Yeah.
It's a mouthful. But I'll highlight just the major, because the other day I took a stock count. I realized I've been to 6 higher learning institutions. I was like, wow, 6? Wow, what did I do? But I'll just highlight the major ones. So I went to the University of Zambia. Initially, and I always say that my life in terms of career was literally set on course by God. I went to the University of Zambia with the hopes of studying medicine. Now, bear in mind that I had a phobia at the time for dead people. Never seen a dead body, I just didn't like being around death. My brother used to laugh at me. I was like, can you even be a doctor? You can't even look at a dead person, at funerals and things like that. So essentially, after the first set of tests, I remember having the lowest I've ever had in my life in chemistry. It should have been like 35, 37%. Yeah, 37.5%. And I was like, if I continue with this path of medicine, chemistry will be a very recurring course.
Yeah.
All my efforts, all my hard work
Yeah.
uh, could only get me 37%. I don't think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Fortunately, my roommate was in the school of agriculture, and he had a group of friends that were doing different type of specialization in agriculture economics, soil science, and the other one was doing crop.
Mhm.
So they sat me down. I'm like, hey, let's see your results. Let's see your results. And I'm like, ish, look, I got 37%. I was like, so what was the class average? 28%. I'm like, you've passed. I'm like, how? This is 37%. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
normally how it works with these gradings, this is the average of the class. So if you're on the other side, then you're good. If you're on this other side, it's bad. So they'll regulate you, the grades. But you have to make a decision on what you want to do after that. Definitely not medicine. Just like, okay, fine. Let's wake you up to the world that is applications. Other qualifications that came in is project management, digital transformation, sustainable livelihoods, and things like that. Master's degree here and there. But the core of all the work that I've done surrounds livelihood development from the perspective of value chain, which brought me into the work that I'm doing with Green Giraffe. Now, Green Giraffe is a multi-sided business model. What that basically means is two sides of the business. So one side is the retail, the front-facing side of the business, where you interact with our final product, which is eco-conscious snacks, right? But on the other side is the technology side, where now we're interacting with the farmers. You buy groundnuts per roadside, right? We buy them for much? 10 kwacha, 5 kwacha, 5 kwacha, 5 kwacha, 10 kwacha. That's about 100 grams. A kilo of unprocessed groundnuts is 16 kwacha, right? And 100 grams of roasted groundnuts, just the roasting, value has already been added because now it becomes 50 kwacha, a kilo of roasted groundnuts. From 16 kwacha, it's moved, and the value addition there is just roasting pambaula in a pan from 16 to 50 kwacha. And if you make peanut butter, right?
Yeah.
It moves up again. Right now, we're buying peanut butter 76 kwacha, right? So it's moved from 16 kwacha to 76 kwacha, depending on what you make with it, right? And it's the same groundnut, right? And this is what, I mean, we love our peanut butter natural. The only addition we put mostly is just salt. See, that is basically what happens with value addition. So we're like, look, let's empower our local communities not to sell the product as seed. Let them make something out of it. But then, if everyone makes a product, who's going to market it? Who's going to sell it? Who's going to create a brand and a livelihood around it? And that's where Green Giraffe was born. You process this product. We buy it as a processed product. You earn the premium as the cooperative or farmer group or club, right? You earn the premium from value addition, but then we take the headache of getting these products into different stores where people are going to buy them at a premium. So that's what gave birth to Green Giraffe, the front side. But then there's the next question. How are you going to assure that this food is properly handled, it's good enough for human consumption, it's processed in a very good way? That's where the technology came in. So we developed a digital traceability system, right, that tracks all the activities. So there are activity logs from the time the seed is bought and planted. The farmer records in the ledger and says, I bought this seed. And the system is designed in such a way that he will record the activity, put a note on what he did, and pictorial evidence of what he did. So if it's a seed that he bought, he'll take a picture of the variety. If it's a planting method that he did, he'll take a picture of that planting method. So we're able to determine whether this is a sustainable planting method or not. And because we want to reward those farmers that are sustainably growing their products, we are willing to pay for that extra effort by giving the farmer a premium. So that particular ledger is sitting on tech that we call blockchain technology. So blockchain technology, imagine it's like a vote for your ledger or your record. Once you lock it in there, no one can come in and alter it or change it. So once you enter the information, it's locked up.
Yeah.
That's blockchain. Right? But what else we've done is we've embedded artificial intelligence into that system. Initially, for the farmer to be able to get insights from their own data. That basically means you've put information on the cloud, and the farmer can now ask the AI, say, look, this is how I've planted my crop. This is how I've done the growing. What yield should I expect realistically? Okay, can you help me come up with my profit and loss statement based on the input of my information? The AI will look at this information, say, okay, you bought the seed for this amount, pay this amount for labor. This is basically how your cash flow look like. So the AI can calculate your income statement, uh, your, your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet based on your data, based on your data. But more than that, the AI can also compute the whole entire chain, value chain, to actually tell you how much carbon has been released. By carbon, I'm trying to say how much greenhouse gases have been released into the atmosphere versus the one that have been captured. But how are we capturing the carbon? The activities that are happening at the farm are going to give us a record of how much carbon has been captured. This is how much carbon has been released from the vehicle that you used, for the transport, from all the other activities. If you've got diesel or something that's using diesel, it will calculate and tell you this particular value chain is actually adding more carbon to the atmosphere. So this value chain is not sustainable. Right. Real data, real facts, not hypothetical data, but actual data that even these farmers can now go and say, we need a green bond to reward us for our efforts in sustainability. So, right. In a nutshell, not a very long description.
A long nutshell.
That's what Green Giraffe is, and that's what we are about.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you. So that's what happens when you tell a passionate business person to talk about their business and take you into the details of it. And for some of us who are sitting at the end of the chain, the receiving end, we just appreciate, just enjoying those tasty local snacks, not knowing about what goes into the whole process of getting that to us. And I feel like you're doing an amazing job. But I want to keep us on track in terms of our conversation. So you have this wonderful book here, and I want us to talk a little bit about it. First of all, what was the inspiration? So this is an invitation to Eavesdrop.
Yes.
Yeah. I took some time to read, and wow, you did such an amazing job.
Yeah.
So first of all, what was the inspiration?
So first I'll start with the full title. So the subtitle is An Invitation to Eavesdrop, the Mind of a Man's Heart. Yeah. The Mind of a Man's Heart. So at the point when I was starting to write this particular piece, I was in a reflective mode. I'd worked for 14 years straight, no break. Just job after job after job. So when my final contract came to an end and I decided, let me start business, I had time now, which I didn't have before. Because as you heard, I'm from the agriculture space. It's a lot of travel. Which part of Zambia have I not been? I think I've been to all the 10 provinces, all the provincial capitals. I've done work in all of those spaces. I used to do a lot of traveling. So I had time to reflect and think. And one of the things that was like on my mind at the time is men don't really know how to express themselves, especially when it comes to issues with the heart. There's all of those statements that implies that a man should be stoic, have no emotion. But when I was reflecting, I was like, as a result, a man, if they've grown up with this type of attitude, how much unprocessed emotions does this man have? So Zambia was turning 60 last year. And My mind was like, oh, wait a minute. 60 years of Zambia. What type of man has Zambia? Based on the socioeconomic happenings from the political side and from the societal side. So I said, let me try to rewind. But then I didn't live in Zambia in the 60s. I didn't live in Zambia in the 70s. So I couldn't describe what was happening.
Like, yeah.
So all I have is third party information of someone who grew up in the times. I said, I'm not a subject matter expert. What was happening in Zambia? So I said, let me pick it up from when I was born, around the time when I was born. Let me try to see the corridors that my life has walked through. See if any person that grew up like me, right, from my vantage point. Now, if you notice, every time we talk about Zambia, we always start talking about Zambia from home.
Yeah.
Even after just every story about no village, no combo. No, I'm gonna pick it up from another. There's a demographic that exists. The middle class, it does exist. It's there. It's never asked them how they look at this country. Okay? And I'm one of those people who be like, look, we're always worried about the poor people and are always jealous about the rich people. You're never worried about yourself if you are somewhere in the middle class. You know, as a result, you create policies either for the rich or for the poor, never for the middle class. Now, like if you're going to grow this country's economy, you have to have policies that actually influence the middle class. So I said, I'm going to stick with the voice of the middle class. I'm going to try to write a story, which is not going to be like the typical story, which starts in the village or starts in the combon, but I'm going to start in the suburbs, right there in the heart of Lusaka, Kablonga, or something similar. And I'm going to start by getting into the head of a typical middle-aged person, like someone in their 40s or early 50s. What's currently happening to them as they reflect on what's currently happening to them emotionally, spiritually, physically? What are they going through? And to try to get to the audience to a point where they start reflecting. And why I said Eavesdrop is, can we get in and hear what he's thinking? So the whole book is told in that first person because he's reflecting, he's telling you what he's thinking, what he's feeling, things that he can never tell you. You never open up to tell you this because that's something that he internally processes. I'll smile at you and say, how are you? And men are always good. Men are never not okay. Men are always fine. How are things? Things are good. Things are good. Things are great. This guy is dying. This guy is suffering. This guy maybe even has terminal cancer. But when you ask him how he is, just tell him, I'm very well, I'm great. We always want that best foot forward. I said, I'm going to start the story from there. And then I'll let the story write itself in a sense that I'm not trying to create a protagonist that is a hero. I want a protagonist that is real so that anyone who reads his story can be able to feel what he felt and how he processed that event in his life so that I can bring you to that point where you start asking, is this the correct way of processing this type of emotion? Is this the correct way of dealing with this type of situation? Right? Like in his early days, he witnessed the divorce of his parents. And no one ever debriefed him. Right? There was no counseling. The father went off with another woman. No one even came and said, oh, what does this mean? What? Like, it doesn't matter what you're going through. Your father is happy, so get with the program. This is your new man. You know what I mean? That type of situation. I'm like, but who's talking to me? Like, haven't I felt something now? My family picture is now different. I'm not seeing the pieces that I remember. I had an older brother, I had an older sister, and I'm here navigating this new picture where my mother, my father, my brother, and my sister are not in the picture. And I'm being told this is now mother, this is now young sister. How do I process that? Right? It's just thrown into your face and say, yeah, deal with it. Um, I fast forwarded into places like the 90s, for example. This is very crucial time in Zambia's growth where people started disappearing in our neighbors. And if you grew up in the 90s in Zambia, everyone was touched by HIV/AIDS pandemic.
Yeah.
You had neighbor A, he used to live in that house, they disappeared. Because you're young, you're processing this thing in a different way. You're not processing it like the way I would process it now. That was your childhood best friend's father and mother who died. And they've moved out of your neighborhood. And you're like, I used to have a good friend. His name was Lawrence. I used to have a good friend. What happened to Lawrence? I don't know. Where is he now? You know what I mean? He was in your life and out of your life. He left an impact. But he didn't leave because he wanted to leave. Something got him out of your street, of your neighborhood, right? Maybe he's the one that used to go and play video games at his place. Maybe he's the guy who used to be your plug for movies or music, but is now gone. And culturally, the changes that are happening, how is it impacting you? I always say that everyone who grew up in the 90s has post-traumatic stress disorder of some kind.
Yeah.
Because it was quite a traumatic time. Peter, who debriefed you, for instance? Who debriefed you and cancelled you from that trauma?
No one. And I think that time HIV was everywhere. I think each and every family somehow had a member who was, HIV positive. At least you have to have been affected by it.
So they used to say, if you're not infected, you are
affected.
And so it affected you. So
Absolutely.
if it affected me, it affected you. The question is, who cancelled you through that trauma? And if you're going to tell me no one, and I'm like, guys, we've got men walking around the streets with issues,
a lot.
Issues, right? Sadly, we talk about things like what? Defilement. Part of the cause of defilement, sadly, is because the complexities of those blended families that we created post-AIDS, right? AIDS comes, now you're staying with your cousin, now you're staying with your aunt, whatever. There are different cousins from your mom's side, from your father's side. Whichever the combination is, you end up in this home with people who might not even be your relatives. And you start developing sexual feelings for them, right? They're not your relatives because this is your aunt's cousin's daughter who's now staying with you, right? And something happens between the two of you, or you end up sleeping with each other because of the proximity and how you used to live. The house was very small, so there's no privacy for the female and the male in that home. These dynamics mess you up.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've now an adult, married, and you're on high. Every time you meet her, there's that spark. I'm like, you can't vocalize your true emotions for this person because the circumstances on which you met are taboo. But that doesn't mean you didn't develop feelings for them. That doesn't mean you didn't develop feelings for them. And as a result, how are you supposed to process and tell your wife, actually, you're not the woman I actually love, the one that I really love is that distant relative of mine that we used to stay with, but we couldn't do anything about it. We have to process these things. Who is talking to that guy? Who's talking to him? Who's helping him navigate those complex emotions? And it's no wonder that now, by the time we reach 2024, which is in this book, the definition of what a man is a very interesting one. Let me put a word out there. Masculinity. I bet when I said the word masculinity, there was a prefix that you attached to it. Immediately, you use the word toxic. I want to ask you a question. How is masculinity toxic? How is masculinity toxic? What is toxic is the person. They can be female, they can be male. So you're a toxic person. Your gender is not toxic. But you know what? You've created this word, toxic masculinity. And I have to use it in my everyday life. You've defined masculinity as toxic. So me expressing my masculinity is being toxic. So what is non-toxic masculinity? No, you are a toxic person. You're not a toxic masculine. No, it's a toxic person, whether you're male or female. But because we've added that, we don't have toxic femininity as a statement anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's only male that are toxic.
Yeah.
And therefore, if I'm a competitive individual at the office and I want to succeed at all costs because I'm that type of person, I'm being called toxic. Why? Because you didn't create room. You should have failed to allow the lady to progress in life. I'm like, look, I didn't say the lady can't progress in life. I just want to succeed.
Succeed as a person. Yeah.
I have goals and ambition. So being ambitious is now being toxic. I'm like, okay, guys, let's create a fair space, right? But I also have to recognize that, look, there's a level of unfairness that's attached to me as a man. That's not attached to the woman. We both went to school. We both come back home and we're both tired. I rest by watching TV. What's my sister doing?
Preparing a meal.
She's cooking. Yeah. Washing dishes. After I watch TV, I get my books and start studying. Right? So there was a time in Zambia where that scenario was very common. So you ended up finding that the cutoff point for girls was lower. But that's not the time. That's not the time we're living in now. When it comes to pass mark, who's passing more? Girls. Yeah, we've reversed it. So now that we've reversed it, which means we've not solved the problem, we've created another. Right? We've helped the woman access education. We've created a more balanced approach. It's equal opportunities. You are a member of this household, whether male or female, so you're going to wash the dishes. Doesn't matter. You're also going to learn how to cook. Doesn't matter. All of us are going to clean, right? It's fine. So now everyone has fair playing field in some instances. It's not 100%, but the results at grade 7 and the result at grade 9 are telling us that something has changed in our homes. Right? I'm just inferring based on those results that we've done something good. But then we've left the male child, because now the male child has no space to go and discuss this definition of manhood. Where did you go, Peter, to go and discuss what being a man is? Where?
That's why we're here.
Peter, where did you go as Peter? So, Tankara Manje, we're sitting here to define correctly what being a man is. Where did you go? Nowhere. So I always ask people and say, hey, guy, Peter, I have a plane in the hangar at the airport. I need you to fly me to Livingston. Just after this podcast, can you fly me to Livingston?
I can't.
Why?
I don't have the skills.
No,
I don't have the training.
you figure it out. you make it up as you go along.
It's impossible.
Why?
Unless you want to crash in the Zambezi River or something.
But that's what we're doing with ourselves. You have no definition, no skills. You don't even know what being a man is, and you're busy leading a home as I'm a husband.
And that's the head of the household.
You're flying that plane, Baba, with no skill, and you're very comfortable with it. Mama, of course. So that was the inspiration with this book. It's not necessarily like a fictional book that you read to say, oh, there's a hero, there's a bad guy, whatever. It's really a reflection, and that's why most people call it a memoir. It's not about my life. I wish it was, but it's not about my life. But it does touch on some of the emotional things that I've gone through myself, and this is why I'm able to discuss them. There's certain things I didn't go through, so I couldn't talk about them, though they happened in Zambia. I said, I was not around when this happened, so I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah,
like when Zambia lost the national team, I wasn't here, so I didn't write about it. But it happened. It affected people. I wasn't there, so it's an event, but I have not recorded. But I talked about the other events when I was around and how they impacted me as an individual. So, and because of that, I was able to talk about them through the lens of the protagonist. But it's an interesting thing, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about loss. In the book, we have a character. It's Nsunge, right?
Yes.
At the time, he was about 8 7 years old. I want us to talk about loss.
Yeah.
So I think he went through a number of losses and rejection as well. There was a time when the parents separated and the dad moved in with the nanny. Is it? You please correct me if I missed it.
No, that's correct. It's
Yeah,
correct.
I think there was a loss of his mom, and I think earlier on you mentioned about the siblings traveling abroad to study and all that, and so I was left with the dad. The mom left as well after the separation. They had to settle with the stepmom. I can put it like that.
No,
So
it was actually, he was born way after, like,
yeah, the age gap was like nine years or
yeah,
so.
something like that.
Yeah.
So by the time he's starting school, his siblings are now about to finish
University.
and start university.
Yeah.
And uh, when the mom leaves, they have to bring. They just left the three of them: him, the father, and the nanny. Yeah. So that was the picture of home now.
Yeah. So now my question is, how do you see family dynamics affecting the upbringing of children, but in particular the boy child? Because, like you said, there was no one to talk to him about the separation, about those changes, and he had to figure out all those things by himself.
If you're very, if someone who's read the book complain and say, look, the mother feels like a footnote. You can't put a face on her.
Yes, it's just like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, that was deliberate.
Yeah.
She left at such a young age, and he doesn't have a mental picture of mom in the home. There's mom as title, she exists. But mom, who loves me, who hugs me, who nurtures me, is not there. You know what I mean? So even when you read, you feel it. You're like, why is this like rushed? So it's like I have to struggle to remember my mother at that time, because she left us when I was quite young. And then the dynamics in their home were such that he had very competitive older siblings, and they grabbed all the attention from the parents. So he didn't feel like he was part of that home. You know what I mean? You heard that one, right?
There's just no sense of belonging.
Like, this is
like
your
I'm an
house.
outcast. Yeah.
He called himself what? The cousin from the village.
Yes.
Right? It's like he's visiting from the village. It's like, that's the real family. Me, I'm just like an appendage. But this is his parents. These are his siblings, and he's not part of that culture. And this is why it was difficult for him to form strong maternal bonds with his own mom. But then when she leaves, they also leave the country. So she leaves, the father goes, and that was because of the political happenings in Zambia. Right? His father, if I can remember correctly, was engaged politically, but he was part of the ruling elite in UNIP. But underground, he was secretly sponsoring MMD and other political factions. Right? But things got a little bit heated, and he felt as if his life could be threatened or something in those years. So he opted to join the bandwagon of a lot of people that was leaving Zambia around that time to go to Botswana. So he left. But then remember, the mother was not there, the older siblings were not there. So he goes, disconnected from his extended family, disconnected from his own nucleus family. So the only person that he called home was his uncle, who just periodically visited. I think I remember it was Uncle Scott. So he became like my connection to my family. Because when they moved to that country, the father and the nanny married. And that just alienated him from his father. Mother is not at home. There's this woman that was my nanny. Now that's supposed to be my mommy. To reconcile that is just like, what is going on? And so his only connection to family, his only connection to home is his uncle, who periodically visits them when they're in Botswana. So if you look at that loss, or in this case, abandonment, is what he felt, right? It affects him, and you see as he starts having relationships with females.
Yeah.
It affects the way he loves.
Yeah.
So even when you start the book, you kind of now understand why he was failing to express himself to that young lady. You notice that, right?
Yeah.
Like you can tell he loves her, but he just can't bring it up. So like, Nishi, what's wrong with you, guy? Now, just he just can't. And now you can link it back to an activity that happened way back. Yeah. Way back. And that's the type of scarring loss does. Sadly, he loses his father as well. And that also affects him because now he's forced to grow up too quickly. Yeah. Right? You're like, from being a part of something to being a part of nothing. You know what I mean? Overnight, you are a loner. Your brother has made a life for himself outside, never comes back to Zambia. Sister never comes back to Zambia. So you're like, you're now here, pretty much on your own. It's death that again compounds the abandonment. So you can actually see the way he forms friendships and relationships is with the fear of you're also going to leave me. Yeah, you're also going to leave me. So I'm not going to invest in you. Because if I invest in you, you'll leave me.
Sad and lonely.
And I don't want. So I'm going to have a relationship where I'm half and half in. Like there's always going to be a door.
Yeah.
That's always open. So it's like if you go into a relationship, the first thing that you do is look for the exit sign.
Yeah.
Okay. It's called divorce.
In case of an emergency.
And now when I say that, is it a surprise that divorce cases are so high in this country? Right? Because people go into the house, first thing they do is, where's the exit door? Okay, I have a lawyer just in case the divorce happens.
As you said that, sorry to cut you short, now it makes sense because, people get into relationships thinking like that. You already know where the exit door is. And so when difficulties hit, you have those challenges, the first thing you're thinking about, before I get there, I just have to. Yeah, wow.
You now see, like I said, it's really like a reflection of what's currently happening.
Yeah.
But if you grew up in this country in the 80s and 90s, you have suffered loss. Whether it's your direct parents or a close relative through HIV, like we mentioned earlier, right? So you have navigated that form of abandonment from loss. And if you didn't process it properly, you now enter every relationship, first realizing exit door here, parachute here. So now there's something that I've heard about, which is even more deadly than sexual infidelity. It's financial infidelity, where the wife and the husband are all keeping little pockets of wealth away, and they don't even know each other. There's a story I heard, I don't know if it's true, that a guy was paying rent. You heard that story?
I have.
I wonder if it's true. But he was paying rent for this property, but the house actually belonged to the wife.
Yeah, yeah. And worst part is that they were actually even increasing the rent year by year. Yeah, well, I think, and I could actually connect with some of the emotions that the young boy in the story was actually experiencing. I saw a lot of, like rejection and loss kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because you are rejected. So from his family, I think there was a sense of feeling of rejection. Mm-hmm. And then he went to have those relationships and also felt a form of rejection at some point. How do you see that impacting men, even when they want to form relationships, especially when they want to settle down in marriage? How do that affect?
So remember, the first thing that it robs, that emotional state, the first thing that emotional state robs is vision. So what I mean by vision is like seeing the future. Okay. Me and you are getting married. Are we getting married because it's a society requirement now, or I have a vision that I share with you to achieve this, right? This is the legacy that me and you are going to build. So I find that those conversations of legacy and vision are not in the relationship. They're not there in the relationship. You are fulfilling a societal obligation and expectation. And so you don't have vision. So because you don't have vision, as a man, you cannot make provision. So when they say a man is a provider, it's really asking that same statement of provision, pro or pre, before. Were you able to see 50 years from now and then come back to the present and say, honey, this is where we are going. What do you think? And then she's like, actually, I agree with you, but you know what you can do? To emphasize this, let's do this. That's why God called her the helper. Now, but here's the thing. The word helper in the Bible refers to paraclete. Same word used to describe who? The Holy Spirit. You tell me our relationship with the Holy Spirit is the same relationship we're supposed to have with our wife. Are you in charge of the Holy Spirit? Is he your servant? Because that's a paraclete. Helper. I will send you a paraclete. Right? I will not leave you alone. I'll send you a paraclete. So it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a paraclete. That's the relationship. So he helps us by showing us what we should know. The Bible says he will remind us what Jesus taught us, right? And so that's the type of relation, that's the type of definition, the semantics that the Bible is using, right? To define what we are calling wife. So when you're defining the vision with her, it's not without her, my vision, it's our vision. So how are we seeing together this thing that we're building called a life together? Very articulated. So just like when you do your company, you have got what? Vision, mission, values. Ask you, Peter, do you have a vision, mission statement, and values for your family? I would say, without even saying, I would say party. And I'll tell you why party. Because you've got two kids. They're part of that. But they're so young that you haven't fully seen what their potential they have. So by the time you fully see that potential, you'll be able to say, this is where we're going. Right? So I can't put you on that type of spot, but I do know that you probably have started having those earlier conversations with your wife and say, generally, it's in this direction. Generally. But we are waiting for these guys to come and add their mix into the conversation. But generally, this is the direction. Yeah. But there are families where they don't even have a general direction. Immediately, I do was said blank. And another phenomena, I know it's like a little bit digression, but since we're talking about masculinity and being male, this is why I always tell people that one of the reasons why premarital sex is quite deadly. Now let's talk about men. Let's be honest and frank, right? Yeah, but no, like you're being old school, Joseph. Sex is very important. You should try it out before, because sexual compatibility is very important. Even in the context of marriage, I don't want to cheat on my wife, so I want to not make sure that she's the one, right? You can have your own semantics, but here's what happens as a man: once you form that dopamine bridge, that connection with the girl that you're dating, is that becomes the goal of all your dates. Guy, you will not listen to anything she's saying. Not because you're not listening, because your plan is, I don't want to anger her, I don't want to disturb her, because at the end of the day, this is what I want. We'll go out, watch a movie. I'm not even paying attention to the movie, because at the end of the day, you get what I mean? It's the goal.
Yeah.
So you will never have any meaningful conversation, because if she's going to say something that's different from you, you won't vocalize your dissatisfaction of what she's saying. You basically say, if I bring out my point, we might end up fighting, and if we fight, then won't happen.
There is no.
So you know what? I'll just pretend as if everything is okay. Yes, baby, I love you. And that erodes the foundation on which your relationship is supposed to have. And you see, in God's design, he understood why premarital sex was not important, because he knew that dopamine addiction, right, through that sexual interaction is very important. It's very addictive. And this is why if you try to break up with someone you had sex with, who you fully fell for emotionally, you never fully get over them. You never fully get over them. We have sayings in Zambia, right? Munda wacha. Yeah. That's where that statement is coming from. That's where that statement is coming from. Is the dopamine bridge is still there. And as a result, you don't want, and there's even another scripture that do not awake love when it's too early, right? I know the context is a little bit different, but I still agree that many waters cannot quench it once you open yourself up. Bear in mind that there's a clear difference between infatuation and love. Clear difference. So if you get to the final chapters of the book, you kind of start seeing these conversations that happen, right? Where he doesn't say this because remember he's experiencing it, right? But you can draw your own conclusions based on what you see him happening. But because he's just telling you what he's going through, he kind of like intimates at what the difference is between infatuation and what love is. Now, love is not a feeling. Never has been, never will be. If you even read the definition of love in the Bible, love is patient, love is kind. It doesn't describe feelings, right? No, that's not love. That's infatuation. Two different things, different emotions, right? So one is an emotion, one is a commitment. It's a commitment. I will be patient with you. I will have long suffering with you. I will be kind to you. Right? I have made a decision. I can be unkind if I want. It's a decision. But because I love you, I will be kind to you. I will be patient with you. Infatuation, I will feel this way. So, what am I trying to say is you expose yourself to infatuation. You're flooding your body with the few good hormones, dopamine, adrenaline, the other one, endorphins. All of those are now swimming in full. Your body is like in hyperactivity in producing these hormones. This is why you feel your heart beating. That's adrenaline, butterflies, endorphins. You know what I mean? Dopamine, the addiction hormone. You know what I mean? The one that.
But those are the conversations I feel like we need to be having with the young men out there, because for me, even growing up, I thought that was love. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I love this girl because I feel things inside me. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we are not having many of those conversations.
So if I ask you when you said that I love you, what were you giving? Thank you. I love you.
Just I love you is
what were you?
Nothing really apart from.
Is that what they will ask you? They will say, "Where's the love? Which love are you talking about?" I can't see it.
Yeah.
But I love you. But what? Which one? Where? Because even you don't even know what am I. It's introspective. I feel this.
Yeah.
I'm alone in this conversation. She's not even there. I love you. Where is she? Because when you say, I love you, I'll be patient with you. She'll see your patience and say, I know you love me because I see you're patient with me. I love you and I'm being kind to you. She'll see your kindness and say, he loves me because he's kind to me. But if you talk about infatuation, I love you, I love you. There's nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's a very addictive state to be in. And because, like you said, if the definition is not very clear, you find yourself in a love relationship, marriage in this case, and you find yourself infatuated with someone. Then you start asking yourself the questions: did I marry the woman? The one I'm supposed to be with? Because at this point now, feelings have taken over. Remember, you married her for love, so there's no feeling there. It's decisions. This is the mother of my children. I'll be kind to her, I'll be patient with her. This one, my blood boils when I'm with her. Right? This one, I just can't stop thinking about her the whole day. Then they are body shape, everything. Right? And as a result, now you're forced to start thinking that I don't love my wife. But remember what they say about addiction. If you start with one shot of the drug, you develop what? Tolerance over time. What happens when you develop tolerance to those hormones? So you've left your wife for that feeling, and the feeling goes. And then now you're starting, what have I done? You never had those conversations about legacy and vision. Then you abandoned your own home because you yourself never knew how to connect, to form relationships. You talked about how rejection affects them. You never learned how to fully bond. Because your bonding process with your own mother was disrupted. So you don't have to fully bond. 7 years with your mother is not enough. You are a child in our home for how long? 18 years, according to the law, right? 18 years. You had to have spent a full 18 years with her, your mom, to fully bond with your dad. Then you can come into a loving relationship and fully bond with your wife. If that process didn't happen, you're coming half-hearted. You use the infatuation to make the decision to be with this woman. And now, just like we said, the honeymoon is over. And now we start hearing things, marriage is tough. Club. Just get yourself a side piece. Right? And I like asking men this question. I'm like, close your eyes, and even you are listening or watching, close your eyes and imagine wife. Just picture of a wife in your head. Right? Peter, do it. Wife. Right? And okay. Now imagine side piece. Side chick. So now I'll ask a question. You can open your eyes. Who is sexy between the two of them?
Don't put me into trouble.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Most men marry Proverbs 31.
Mm-hmm.
The virtuous woman.
Yeah.
This is the mother to my children, the virtuous woman. But they forget the same Proverbs, the same book tells you earlier, saying, remain committed to the wife of what? Your youth. Let her what? Let her what? Use the word in the Bible.
Satisfy.
Her breasts satisfy you and drink only from her sisters. He's describing sex there. He says you should be fully and emotionally into it with your wife. Right? But because you're stuck on Proverbs 31, there is nothing sexy there. Truth. You've created the picture of wife to be Proverbs 31. She doesn't have breasts to satisfy you. But Proverbs is telling us, guy, you married someone you should be sexually adventurous with. The adventure is not there. The adventure is in your bedroom with your wife. But you see, you married that woman, the stoic woman, the one without emotions, the one who just goes and wakes. In the morning, she's cutting wood, she's making robes and whatever. That's the one you married. Now you want sexual satisfaction. Remember, we closed our eyes? Who are you going to be thinking about for sexual satisfaction? That is the rig. We've been rigged. And guess who society created that? It's the very same Zambia that we're living in. That's telling us that, a wife is supposed to be virtuous, stiff, just sits at home, but the sexy woman is out there. Guy, what sexual fantasies? Get yourself one. And 100% of the time we see men leaving their homes to go and looking for that adventure. Because even at marriage, I even told, this is wife, that is exciting. But it's a lie. The Bible has told you, be satisfied with your wife. Let her breast satisfy you. Meanwhile, you've changed the picture and there's no, wife is Proverbs 31, adventure is side piece. So guess what? You walk in line waiting for that day. I was teasing some men. I was like, the only reason why you don't have enough is because you don't have enough money.
Give you the money.
The going rate of an iPhone now is the iPhone 16 Pro Max. It fits and the house is around. Because you can't afford them, Baba, you are stuck.
Yes.
Should you be able to afford an air ticket to Dubai, to Maldives, to Mauritius, it's over.
Yeah.
But because you don't have that type of money,
you have no choice.
You have no choice. But in your heart of hearts, you've purposed. Immediately I can afford, I'm going. Adventure is not at home. Adventure. If that's your thinking, then my brother, you need to go back and have that. The same thing that we've been talking about. There's a lot of issues that we haven't dealt with, and this is one of them.
Yeah.
Let's go back and start damaging that thinking to get back to the position where God actually wants us to think about our wives. we should think of them as balanced, both sexy and also companion. That balance, so that you shouldn't start thinking adventure is outside the home. You and your wife will sit down and say, baby, how can we make this more adventurous? How can we make this more exciting? If your wife is losing her shape, guy, go and pay that gym membership. Better still, you do workouts at home, buy the kits. If you are scared that Tobacco Gym has a book, get the kit and start working out with her. Take the lead with her, right? And that in itself is something that you can do about. We call that growing your wife's glory. It's a whole big topic. I'm not going to it. It's not even discussed in the book yet. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. But growing your wife's glory refers to you fully seeing a full potential as the husband and ensuring that that is lived out. So if you're saying side chick is sexy, the one that you imagine when you closed your eyes, make your wife look like that for you. At least when you close your eyes, your wife is not looking like the original picture that you saw. She should look to you, the husband, not us in the world, but to you. The way you envision that side chick is the way she should appear to you. The girl who satisfies all your sexual fantasies. If you can't see your wife like that, mama, there's a problem. There's just a paycheck away from you
jumping next door. Yeah, I think you bring out very, very important insights there. And I wish we had a school for that, because I feel like a lot of us guys need that kind of content, especially the young men. Now, there's something I think it also comes from the upbringing about men, where it's difficult, maybe because of the expectations, but it's so difficult for the men to just come to a place where they admit they don't know what they're doing, they don't know where they're going. And I read in the book where the main character Sunge was, having a conversation with the uncle, Scott, and he made a point. He said, "I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to do." What's your comment there about men having that that challenge?
A lot of homes, and sadly I lived in one, is we never had conversations in the home that I grew up in, what you want to be. For me, it was go to school, pass. Go to school, pass. Now, I started the conversation earlier, and it's interesting we come here. I said I didn't go to University of Zambia to study what I ended up studying, right? And if you ask me, and I discuss it in another chapter, in the book, it calls them the 5 careers. The 5 careers. We grow up in Zambia only having 5 careers. And part of the reason, I think it's explained in the book, talking about how we moved from capitalism to nationalization. And because of nationalization, it was the onus of the government to create employment for people. There was no private sector. So you have 2 options in any country to work. You can work in the private sector or you can work for government. But in Zambia, the government became the biggest employer. Bad situation, because now for Zambia, it didn't play out well. And that's why we saw a lot of companies in the 90s crumbling, because they couldn't stand as private sector companies. They relied so much on government support that they didn't have internal systems to keep profitable. And that's where we lost a lot of jobs. So what were the 5 careers? And these 5 careers were carved up based on what people started seeing as people were flourishing after independence. So you're either a doctor. So remember, I drank that Kool-Aid, I wanted to be a doctor, or an engineer, accountant, teachers. Economics. No.
Teachers were not there?
No, teachers were not aspirational.
Okay.
If you think about it,
yeah.
Would you rather be a lawyer or a teacher?
Lawyer.
You see what I mean? Yeah. Would you rather be an accountant or a teacher?
Accountant.
You see what I mean? So the top 5 were law, accounts, medicine, economics, and engineering. The top 5. So for us, we were told, go to school and study one of these 5, you will become successful. And that's because at independence, we had 100 graduates, they tell us. And so whoever could get a qualification would find themselves in employment. And in those days, parastatal jobs and government jobs would come with a vehicle, a house, and things like that. So aspirationally, everyone wanted to be that. So education was emphasized. not real development of the human child, in this case, us men. So we were limited in what we could think of ourselves. And interesting enough, try this for science. If you ask someone, tell us more about yourself, they identify with their career.
Yeah.
And those who are in those 5 careers will introduce themselves very passionately. Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm a doctor.
No, Dr. Joseph.
Dr. Joseph, right? And now we even have engineer,
Yeah.
Joseph,
Yeah.
right? Barrister, Joseph, right? Now we even put the surnames or the suffix to your names, Zika, ACCA, SEMA. It's very important because that now identifies you. That's not you. That's your career.
Yeah.
We've lost even the definitions of who we are. We've become our jobs. So in Sunge's situation there, he's sitting there saying, I don't know what potential is inside me for me to think about a career that I can go to. I have lost myself. Bear in mind, he just came out of a breakup, right? Came out of a breakup that just threw him off. And he's now saying, I don't know who I am. So he decides to go to the University of Zambia, but to pursue what? The top 5. In 2025, if a child who started school 12 years ago, 12 years ago is what? That's 2012, 2013, right? Or maybe let's add preschool and everything to that. That's 15 years ago.
or so.
2010 or 16 years ago, right? 2009. And you tell them, when you grow up, child, you should become a social media influencer. In 2009, was there such a career?
It would make sense.
It wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
Look at the guys who are influencers and the type of money they're making. Globally, and I'm not even talking about Zambia. Globally.
Just
Millionaires.
content, videos.
That's a career.
Some have never even been to school.
That's a career. In Zambia, we are still battling with that thought. That's not a job.
Yeah.
I'm making money. I'm making ends meet. I am creating content and I'm earning from it. For you, you'll be like, to reconcile that, because remember, you come from the top 5 careers.
Yeah.
So when someone says, I'm a content creator, or what do they call it now? Digital creator, right? That's what they're called. I'm a digital creator. To us, that's not a job. That's not a career. No, that's not good enough. But guy, let's look at your paycheck and mine. There's a lady I got a chance to meet, and as a student, she became a digital creator. As a student at the University of Zambia, she bought herself a Benz. Did you buy a Benz when you missed? And how did she make her money? Digital creation.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that in 16 years ago, 2010, 2011, that was not a career. You couldn't even advise someone, when you grow up, you can do this, you can do this. There are other options. You can do that, you can do that. So the creative arts are still very much, if you, in fact, what would happen in your home, Peter, if they find you drawing on a piece of paper? Slap. That's not what you use papers for. Solve math. Solve math. Being creative writing, poetry. What is that? No. Join better clubs. Do debates, jets. Okay? That was the closed thinking, not because it was that type of thinking came because of how our society was designed. We saw STEM as being the STEM subjects, science, and I know you were in the STEM space,
Science, technology, engineering,
and mathematics as being the go-to subjects. In fact, even today in this country, mathematics and English are compulsory. You count math and English, then we'll ask the rest. The creative arts, literature, arts and design, we don't even count them per certificate. You did art, you're not a person. Science, pure science in those days. I don't know what it is now because of the new syllabus. But at this time, you kind of see that creativity now has got the highest premium right now. Creativity has got the highest premium right now because That's where the money is. You might never make the amount of money Patson Daka has made with his feet. 2 feet. The amount he makes at Leicester City. Say what you want, Mr. Doctor. Say what you want, Mr. Engineer. Those 2 feet with no PhD and everything are making more.
So even the voice. Look at people like Yomaps right now. It's big brand and
creativity. So we need to understand, and this is why I write this reflecting past 60 years. But I'm also asking us, okay, let's project 20, 30, 40, 50 years. What type of careers are we seeing, and what type of Zambians do we want to handle those careers? What are we building as a society to see in the future and say, can you that? So when you find Nsunge in that position with his uncle, he is lost because society at that time didn't have any ideas for him other than Tabiako school. Tabiako school, something will happen. We don't know what. But look at how many graduates followed that plan and abandoned their artistic expression. And now are joining the many people in the street saying, I do that if I get a degree, things will be okay. Look at your maps. You don't have a degree. Your maps is the one making money. I could have also. I used to be a musician. I used to play guitar. But I stopped. Because as an education, I lost the talent. I lost it. It's no longer part of my skills. Oh, why? No, because they told me school was more important. And I'm not saying that school isn't important. There are some people, right, who are gifted for that. Those are the doctors we have, and those are the engineers. But what about people who are not doctors, who are actually talented musicians? Why can't we flourish? So in 2050 in this country, what would be the major careers that we are seeing? Will it still be the top 5? Or do we now need to invest in other things, in our children, right? So that we see them grow and attain those careers. Because I bet you the parents to that girl who bought a Benz did not send her to the University of Zambia to become a teacher. Yeah. But they're enjoying the money now.
Amazing. I think time flies. This has been an amazing conversation, and I know we've touched on a lot of important key aspects, especially around manhood. Actually, I like it because it talks about it covers from boyhood to manhood. Yes. So there's that that transition, and also gives you a picture into some of the issues that were happening around this little boy. Because I think the story starts when he was like 7 years old until he's in university thereabouts. So that gives us a picture, and we see a lot of some of those childhood experiences that go on to affect him as an adult man. But unfortunately, we have to.
Reason why we're here on earth, right? So please find your purpose, and you can only find your purpose by consulting the one who created you. Just like any device has a manual. Let's go to our manual, which is the Bible, and find out our purpose. Other than that, you will be abusing this beautiful gift that's been given to us. So if you haven't made that decision to consult your maker and ask him why he put you on earth, I would encourage you to get that done. Sort out your affairs so that you can live a purposeful life, fulfilling. Let's not get ourselves caught up in the rat race, looking for money, chasing and adrenaline, but let's leave an impact, a legacy that is going to transcend generations. It's our role and duty. That's what men are. We are the providers of vision. So not just vision for this country, but vision of our homes. Because when Zambians prosper, this country will prosper. That's what we want to see, a situation where young men, young minds are walking with purposeful lives and have a vision for the future, and will not be caught up by surprise by what's happening in society, would have planned for it. That's my encouragement.
Thank you so much. I have been chatting with Mr. Simcoe? Or do you prefer Ivwananje?
Both are my names. Joseph is my name, Ivwananji is my name. But for those who'd like a copy of the book,
Yeah, I was about to say that.
it is available at Wilawani stores. It's also available in some select Book World stores. But if you can't get a copy because it's flown out of the shelves, reach out to my LinkedIn. I can find a way of getting it to you. So yeah.
What's your LinkedIn handle?
Joseph Simoko.
Joseph Simoko. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you. And to the viewers, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Crisis of Manhood podcast. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and also if this message, this discussion has been impactful to you, don't forget to share widely in your networks. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure and signing out.
I keep it inside of me. Yeah, I keep it inside. It's killing the man in me. Yeah, it's killing the man.